We want to welcome you to the first inaugural event of Utica's Upper Room, and I am going to be introducing shortly the Rusty Doves. And as Jerry was playing, it reminded me of a joke, and the joke that it reminded me of was the story about a therapist. And the therapist had a great reputation for putting together marriages that nobody else could put together. And what happened was there was a couple whose marriage was in horrible shape, and they had not talked to each other for over a year. Finally, they broke down and talked to each other and said, "We got to get divorced." And the husband said, "Well, yeah, we do have to get divorced." But he said, we're going to go to the judge, and the judge is going to say, "Did we go to therapy?" And so we have to go to a therapist so we can say to the judge, "Yeah, judge, we went to therapy and it didn't work." So what ends up happening is they go to the therapist and they come in and one of them sits on one side of the couch and the other sits on the other side of the couch, and they'll talk to the therapist, but they won't talk to each other. The therapist says, "Come back next week." And the following week, they're no better. Okay, they might even be a little worse. Gets to the therapist says, "Okay, I've got one last chance." And he says, "Actually, my office is going to be used. I can't meet you, so I've got to meet you Friday night, 10:30. And this is the little coffee place around the corner from my office." And so what ends up happening is they meet him at the coffee place at 10:30 in the evening, Friday night. They get there. They're not going to talk to each other. They've got one more meeting. They're out of there. They're going to go see the judge. They're going to get a divorce, and they're never going to talk to each other again. They're never going to even see each other again. And so the therapist talks to them. They each talk individually. The therapist won't talk to each other. Finally, the therapist just kind of puts his coffee down, and he looks dejected. And then the bass player starts to solo. And once the bass player starts to solo, all of a sudden, they look at each other. All of a sudden, they talk. All of a sudden, they remember things about 20 years ago where they had a really good time. All of a sudden, all this incredible stuff goes on, and they realize that they're in love and they don't want to see the judge and they want to put together a new life together. And so there's another guy in the club who's nursing his beer along. He goes on to the therapist and said, "That's amazing what you did. How did you do that?" And the therapist says, "Everybody knows that people always talk during the bass solos." So welcome to Utica's Upper Room. We have crazy ideas here. We think that God is into creativity. We think that God likes all kinds of stuff besides church services. We think that God is with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday afternoons, as well as during whenever your services happen to be. We believe that there's a creativity that God has given that is implicit as well as explicit, and we're just going to celebrate what God is doing in the community of Utica, New York, in the talent that He's given these folks that we are really happy to have, and we have a lineup of a really exceptional and extraordinary group of people here tonight. So we hope that you will give first the Rusty Doves your full attention. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
This first song